It is kind of a sad day, guys, and that is because the beloved store chain Radio Shack is closing numerous stores across the country. And I honestly, I actually don't care because I actually kind of hate Radio Shack. I've never had a good experience with this company or with their stores in the past. My own personal experience with Radio Shack was when I was building my computer about 5 years ago. Well, actually, it was about probably 6 years ago now. I was doing a dual monitor setup, and I wanted to basically set up 2 monitors, and I had to buy a cable or an adapter that adapted HDMI into the port for the monitor on the back of my graphics card. And I found one on Amazon, and it was like $6, but it was like winter vacation, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want to get this set up, and I want to get it rolling. So I took a ride over to my local mall, went into Radio Shack, and I was like, hey man, let me get one of these right here. He's like, oh sure, yeah, we got that. That's gonna be, $35. I was like, $35 versus $6 on Amazon. And I ended up buying it anyway because I wanted to have it to use. But that has been like my experience with Radio Shack. Anytime I've gone in there to buy something, it's because I need it right then and there. I can't wait to order it online, and I end up paying like 5 times what it would have cost me on Amazon. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Radio Shack. Maybe you guys are, but what I want to do is kind of talk about why Radio Shack is going under, what's going on with them, and what their main business problems were, because it's kind of a curiosity thing for me because near where I work, there's a Radio Shack in that mall, and occasionally if I have nothing to do, I'll stroll in there on lunch and just kind of thumb around and look at some stuff. I've never really bought anything there, but I was walking by it the other day, and I saw the big signs up that said store closing, everything, 30-40% off, whatever it is. So I wanted to do some research on Radio Shack and see what was going on with them. So anyways, Radio Shack has filed for bankruptcy for the second time in the last 2 years. They will be closing another 200 stores, which accounts for roughly 9% of their remaining stores. So in 2015, when they filed bankruptcy for the first time, Radio Shack was taken over by General Wireless. And General Wireless attempted to get foot traffic back in the store by making this deal with Sprint, where they were establishing what they called co-branded stores. So hopefully people going in there looking for help with their Sprint phones might shop and buy things from Radio Shack, and then people in there buying stuff from Radio Shack might look at what Sprint has to offer. So it seemed like a good idea on paper, but in practice it didn't work out so well. So as of right now, just from what I've seen too, Radio Shack stores are filled with overpriced, outdated electronics and accessories. And it's funny, if you go in there, it's like going back in time sometimes, strolling around and seeing what products are still on those shelves. It's kind of interesting. So let's just do an example here of how overpriced Radio Shack can be. This isn't as bad as my example, but I didn't have like the actual numbers on it, but this is just a more real-world example of AA batteries, something that people buy all the time. So let's say you're looking to buy some AA batteries and you go to Radio Shack, okay? And you want to pick up a 36-pack of AA batteries. Well, that's going to run you $26.99 for the Radio Shack brand batteries. Now, if you go on Amazon and order those same batteries, they're not Radio Shack brand, but they're comparable. You can get them for $16.35. So in this example here, Radio Shack is 65% more for AA batteries. That's just insanity. Who would see the advantage in buying these things from Radio Shack? There is no advantage. So what are the main business problems with Radio Shack? There's like 5 main problems here that I see. Number 1 is their store concentration. So the Radio Shack stores were located too close to each other, and this caused inventory problems as well as costly store maintenance. Yeah, when business was good and all of the stores were profitable, it probably made sense for them to open as many as possible and be closest to the customers and put them in any malls that they could. But when the business started turning around and they had so many stores they had to keep inventory of and keep products in, it became very expensive, and this is kind of where the demise started. So here's just an example of this. At one point in time, there were 25 Radio Shack stores in a 25-mile radius of Sacramento, California. That's a lot of stores. That's a pretty dense concentration of stores. Number 2 is probably the biggest one. That's like the example we just went over there, is online sales. Radio Shack never really jumped on the bandwagon or did the online sales correctly. So Amazon and eBay were able to take a huge chunk of the Radio Shack business with the sale of electronics online. And online shopping became cheaper and more convenient than brick and mortar storefronts. Also, if we consider the fact that the majority of people are buying other stuff online as well, so most of these Radio Shacks are located in shopping malls, and as foot traffic went down in malls, which it is still now, there was less foot traffic going into Radio Shack. So maybe people were in the mindset of, okay, yeah, I know I'm paying more money at Radio Shack, but I'm already here to buy clothes or whatever. I might as well just run in there and pick up my batteries or whatever it is you needed. But when people stopped buying other stuff at shopping malls, there was no longer that convenience of, I'm already here, I might as well run in. So they started buying things elsewhere. And this led to some serious inventory problems as well. This tied into as well that store concentration of having too many stores, having a difficult time maintaining inventory, and then as a result, the few people who went into the stores couldn't find what they were looking for, so those few people that were going to Radio Shack stores were likely not going to return if they weren't having success finding what they were looking to buy. Number 3 is cell phones, and this is kind of what was supposed to save this company with those co-branded stores, but it ended up hurting this company. By 2014, cell phones became over 50% of the company's total sales, so it was their biggest moneymaker. Now, anybody who knows business knows that when you have a high product concentration, when one specific thing is making the majority of your money, you're not well diversified, and if there's any disruption with that one product or that one income stream, that could be detrimental for your business. And that's exactly what happened, because cell phone carriers substantially cut the payments to Radio Shack, which destroyed those profits they were getting from cell phones, which was over 50% of the company's total sales. So that was detrimental for Radio Shack. Number 4 was management problems. So from 2005 to 2014, that's a span of 9 years, they changed CEOs 7 times. So that's a lot of turnover, guys. And then just an example of one of the bad management ideas was the CEO, Joseph Magnaca, I believe that's how it's pronounced. He joined Radio Shack in 2013 and planned a product overhaul, change in employee commission structure, as well as aggressive marketing. And as a result, this significantly accelerated cash burn with those marketing efforts, and employees were overall confused about the commission structure, and they didn't understand how they were getting paid. And that kind of killed employee morale. So as you know, with Radio Shack, there's a lot that you need to ask questions about if you go in there looking for specific things. You need to have good employees there, and they need to be motivated to do well for that store. And if they're not clear on how they're getting paid, or if they're making less money than before, their morale is going to go down, and that experience with that customer is going to be a lot poorer than it was before. And then the 5th problem was just the financial problems. So Radio Shack has experienced negative earnings since 2012. And in 2013, October 2013, they got a loan from Salus, or is it Salus? I'm not sure. But that was for $250 million. But there was a condition to this loan. And that condition was that Radio Shack could not close more than 200 stores a year without consent of Salus. And then in 2014, Radio Shack attempted to close 25% of their stores. And Salus did not let them do this because of that condition. They did not have consent for them closing this number of stores, which basically they weren't able to close these stores that were the worst of the worst and not making any money or burning the most amount of money. And this just accelerated that cash burn, resulting in bankruptcy and then the second bankruptcy here as well. So kind of a mess for Radio Shack. And it's funny too, because now you see why they probably only closed another 200 stores is because it's a condition under this loan they got. I'm sure they would be closing more stores right now if they could, but they probably don't have the consent of Salus, who gave them that loan to hopefully save that business, which obviously they're filing for bankruptcy for a second time, so that didn't do too hot for them. Anyways, I'm just curious, guys, who's next? What's your opinion? I have a couple of businesses I threw up here that I see as some businesses that we may see the same thing going on with in the future. Number 1, these two kind of tie in together, Staples and Office Depot. I think people are buying a lot more of their office supplies on Amazon because they're just able to undercut them. Number 2, FYE, for your entertainment. You know, they sell basically obsolete media forms like CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays. I know some people are still buying Blu-rays for like home theaters and stuff, but I don't see a lot of people buying CDs anymore, simply because you can just use Spotify and pay a monthly membership. That's what I do. I haven't bought a CD in about 2 years now. And as a result, you know, the way media changed, and the way we listen to music, the way we look at movies and watch movies has changed so dramatically, it kind of just circumvented FYE, and there's no longer really a business for them. And other than that, what do they sell there? You know, action figures, t-shirts, things like that. I don't see FYE staying around for much longer either. And then we have Sears as well, which has been hurting badly, and you know, they've not been able to, you know, stay in the front with retail. And you know, a lot of clothing retail stores, the big retail giants are suffering, but Sears is hurting badly because they just have not been able to innovate the way some of these other stores have. But anyways, guys, I'm curious what you think. Do you see those stores as being stores that may be filing for bankruptcy in the near future as well? Or what do you guys think are going to be some of the next stores to close? Just wanted to throw that out there as a question for you. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like, and then feel free to drop a comment if you guys have any other ideas for future videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to be notified of future uploads. And as always, I thank you guys for watching.